Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Thought Leaders Live, where we talk to thought leaders in business, life, and all points in between. And today, going to wrap up this week with a really incredible program about how AI is transforming human connection. And we've got Nick Blasi with us. He is the co-founder of Personos, where he focuses on making psychology-driven insights accessible and actionable in the workplace. Nick, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Greg. Excited.
Yeah, let's dig into this because you've got a whole bucket of things here that are really fascinating. I think let's just start out from the kind of this big picture here. In the show description, we're talking about that one of the lines is that AI is great, but it's not so much automation, but amplification,
Mhm.
how you're using AI to enhance things. And in your case, we're talking about emotional intelligence, strengthening relationships, and building more connected teams. So as you say on your website, it's kind of like AI plus personality science helps you solve people problems. Okay. So this is what we're going to be
Right.
getting into during the show. We're going to get to all that in a second, but for right now, let's start out with you, a little bit more about your personal journey and what led you to help start to build personas.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my background actually is in economics, and I'm a Colorado boy through and through. Born and raised, went to CU Boulder, and then quickly jumped into the 401k world, working for a pretty big financial company here in Colorado. And my co-founder, who obviously started up this company with myself, did the exact opposite. He went from startup to startup to startup. 5, 10, 15 employees. We had this shared passion of entrepreneurship and really finding that highest level of leadership and leading something of our own. So we knew we were going to do something at some point with his AI architecture background and just kind of where the world was obviously going. We had a pretty good idea that it was going to be an AI company, and then just the stars aligned to bring in the personality psychology element of it. It's obviously, our backbone and an important piece. And we came to the personality psychology aspect in two separate stories, really. So myself, I was managing a big team of people in that financial world. And we are doing everything disc assessments, Clifton Strengths, Myers Briggs, you name it. And, quite frankly, I loved them. I thought they're a ton of fun to play with,
Yeah.
and really good in the moment conversations. So I'm like, this is just outstanding. Here we go. We're going to hit our goal, taking on the world. And the next day, I literally watched one of my employees just throw their packet in the drawer. Nothing changed. So that's what we're trying to solve. Like, there's something here, but how do we make this a daily practice for the rest of the year, actually achieve goals and try to change things about our team dynamics? So that's the very literal way that we came up with what we're doing. But interestingly enough, Christian, my co-founder, played on that 2015 national championship team for University of Denver. And every Monday practice that season, they brought in a personality psychologist instead of practice. And they talked about this type of stuff. Like,
Wow.
you're down by 4 goals, it's fourth quarter. How do you focus on one goal at a time? So this concept's been in our mind for almost a decade now. Just how can we take that, democratize the science, and bring it to everybody?
So let me push you back a little bit to
Yeah.
what we were talking about when you were leading a team and you got this tool. Uh, Spell that out for me a little bit more, where you got it and you're like, okay, what would you give it to your team and say, all right, here's, these are the people you're managing, use this moving forward, and then, nothing happened. I mean, can you kind of
Exactly.
spell that out for me a little bit more?
Yes, we brought our team. We actually, it was a business trip. We went out to Boston, brought the whole group, and we did a disc assessment, which is the one where you're either a D, an I, an S, or a C. And the same thing. We had a formal presentation. We talked about so and so's a C, you're a D, you're an S. Here's how you work together. And the science was sound. And it was actually just completely fascinating what they were talking about.
Sure.
But it is exactly that. We walked away with 80 pages of printed paper as our takeaway. And you try to remember, you try to take notes, but the human brain can only hold so much information. So the second that packet went away and you wanted to apply that same type of knowledge 2 weeks later, it was just gone.
It's like writing big marketing plans and then having nobody to know what to do with them once it's time to implement. I think we all run in that. And I think a lot of us have taken those personality tests and all those things. And yeah, like, you and I were talking about before the show. Oh, great. Okay. Now what do we do with this?
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit. And first of all, we got to give a shout out to the guy who brought us together, Mike Walker.
There he
Hey,
is.
Mike, thanks for thanks for spirit getting us together on this and making the intro. Um, Mike was on the show a few weeks back. Really smart guy in decision making. But let's just talk about this. You gave us the example of Christian and I'm sorry, was it hockey again?
Lacrosse.
Lacrosse. Sorry.
Yep.
Um, Using it and implementing on a regular basis. So tell us how a little bit about Personos and how that takes that big packet of paper and turns it into an actionable kind of a management tool, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the thing I was alluding to is the human brain can only hold so much, and that's obviously by design. That's to nobody's fault. So when you talk about AI, you always get asked what's being automated. And what we're doing is we're taking all those insights from the psychology breakdown and putting it at a readily available tool. So we use the 5 factor model of psychology. It's the gold standard. It's clinically used. It's academically researched. It's just the one that everyone uses in the real space of psychology. And you've never seen that one before because it's not a letter or a shape or a color. It's not as memorable. So it's always been an implementation issue of how do you take that best possible science and put it into people's hands. And then that's what it really is you take the onboarding assessment, it takes 3 to 5 minutes, and then that's part of you. And then you can share any context. The tool then knows you and starts to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, etc. And then, like I alluded to, if it's 2 weeks from now, you have to go tell your team so and so is doing this and we need to pick up the slack. Some of those difficult conversations that are just difficult no matter what. You can use that tool to ask the question and build this confidence and this trust with the tool to say, here's what I have to do. What's the best way to approach it? And it gives you the advice firsthand in a real time.
Okay. And so it's more prepping before the meeting. It's not something that's going to be you've got your ear pod in or your plug in. And it's like coaching you like somebody in the booth. It's more. Although you're probably thinking, hey, maybe we should get
Yeah,
coached up.
put that on the list.
Tell me a little bit about the 5 factor because I'm not familiar with that.
Yep. So what's important about it is it's continuum based. So it measures 5 different factors and then 30 different facets under each. And then it's all scaled on a 0 to 1.0 scale. So essentially it's infinite in a way, or nearly infinite. And I think we can all agree there's not just 4 types of personalities, there's 16 types of personalities. Everyone's different, and that's the best part about
Yeah.
people. But this one can actually capture that. But then if I were to give someone that statistical report without the context around it and the tool around it, they look at it and be like, I don't know what this is or why I have it. But
Yeah.
it's really interesting. The science itself behind that model is it's lexical in nature. So it's just really large groupings of words and descriptors of people, which is interesting because a large language model of AI is built the exact same way. So it's these 2 different sciences and these 2 different builds built the same way, and they're speaking the same language in that regard.
Oh, interesting. Wow. Okay. And I like that because I think we've all seen so many of these personality tools that give you the buckets. And it almost feels a little bit like the Zodiac sometimes, where it's like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's me. And then you go to a different sign, you're like, well, that's kind of me too. You know? So
Exactly.
you get a little bit in the nuance no matter where you go. So talk to me a little bit about one of the first things with personality psychology, um, how AI can enhance, not replace the human connection. And what do you mean by that?
So what it does exactly that is it takes who you are as a person, gives you more of it, and allows you to leverage your skill set. It's kind of like you alluded to. It's not going to be in the meeting. It's not going to be part of the meeting. What's going to do is it's going to help prep the humans real time and reflectively to be the best version of themselves in that meeting. So it knows you, it knows what you're trying to achieve, it knows the people around you. There's a big relationship component to it, and that's how you then take this type of interaction and just bring out the most of it. And here's what we're just trying to achieve. The people problems tend to get in the way. There's a lot of friction in that in the world. That's what we're trying to solve.
So the AI is kind of this empathy tool, really, is really understanding
Hmm.
who you're dealing with.
Yeah, that's
I'm
a great
kind
way
of
to put it.
curious, does it also assess you as a person and what your strengths are and factor that in? Or is it really just empathy of who you're trying to reach?
It's definitely you. So you essentially create your own instance of the world. So you have your user, You have each of your relationships that are in the experience. You can tag them in the chat. And you can actually build groups as well.
Okay.
And then once it's all onboarded and created, you have this experience, and it could be exactly that. Be like, I have a big presentation this Friday. I've never done one before. I'm terrified, but I can't tell anybody. What should I do? And you create that confidant, and then, if you're talking about a relationship one to one, or if you're talking about a group, you essentially just tag it in the chat and explain the situation.
Now, just from a business perspective, I mean, you're a startup, you've got this tool, and like we were talking before, the applications seem endless, right? I
Mhm.
mean, just about anybody could use this. Where do you see some of the industries that are really picking up on this right now?
So it's the people industries. It's probably the best way to put it. Is what is your day job, and it's dealing with people. In a lot of cases, that's nonprofits for us right now, where their job, take a social worker, their job is to deliver the best possible outcomes for their client, and that is a lot of phone calls, a lot of checkpoints, a lot of touch points. But what it really is a lot of difficult conversations, once again, and a lot of variables. So I come from the corporate world. If there's a problem with the client, we know how to solve it. We always know how to solve it. It's happened a million times. It's not that big of a deal. My wife's a nurse, so we always talk about how we're definitely not saving lives here in this space.
Right.
But social workers, on the other hand, they are. And
Yeah.
those phone calls, you can't predict what's going to happen. You can't predict someone's background, where they're going to go. So when you can give them tailored advice, that is really the power of AI. Is here's what happened. I'm at a loss. I don't even know what to do first. What should I do? And that's where we're getting a lot of benefit.
I really like that. I like the enhancement. I'm thinking about my wife, who's a parent coach,
Yeah.
and dealing with a lot of different personalities, and her role, and probably a lot of managers too, is you don't want to necessarily tell people what to do. You want to let them kind of determine the solution on their own, build their own solution. Does personas help you a little bit in that kind of coaching and how to coax that out where they kind of empower themselves?
That's exactly how it comes out. So yeah, we're never going to tell you what to do. We don't try to automate any part of the human experience. We just try to uplift it. So when you ask a question, you start out, I'm at a loss. What should I do? It'll give you 5 different options. And that's what actually a lot of our social workers are doing, is they'll pull up the experience with their client, type the whole thing out, or do the talk to text and be like, okay, which of these 5 things do you want to do? And then just do it. That's the big piece of this tool as well, is it's all actionable and achievable. If you want to become a great public speaker, it's not going to happen overnight. Start by asking a question in a meeting. Start with small steps, and you can achieve that goal long term.
Nick, tell me now, how are you determining that this is a valuable tool? I mean, is there some sort of metrics, benchmarks that come out of this, that what the social workers are reporting back, or any of your clients?
Yep. So we definitely obviously saw traction in the nonprofit space. We really leaned into it. We saw it firsthand too. There's just a lot of moments where I physically was in the room, and there's tears, there's excitement, there's hope, more than importantly. So
Wow.
there's that. And we really, leaned into the emotional aspect of this is where it's going to go. But also we do have the ability to track how many people are going to the chat. How often are they using this tool on a daily basis? It's really strong in that space as well. And then we have something called the action board. So again, if it gives you 5 options as here's what you should do next, and you want to pick number 3, you can click add to my action board. Then it creates like a project management type tool to do, doing, and done. And people can actually take that action and drag it throughout the process, and we can see when actions are completed.
Wow, that's fantastic. I really like what you're talking about, just enhancing the person, the coach,
Mm-hmm.
the social worker, because I'm going to guess that a lot of these things that are not revelations that come up from personas. It's maybe some things that it's helping them focus. It's helping give some definition and
Mm-hmm.
clarity to the situation. I was working on a particular angle for some content I'm writing, and couldn't quite get the specific definition of the type of person I was talking to. And I worked within the tool, and it was giving kind of coach me along. And then I made that connection, like, yeah, that's it. Is that kind of what it does with the person who's using it, is give you some, like you mentioned, a number of options, and then it
Mm-hmm.
kind of solidifies maybe their instincts?
Yep, it's absolutely that. It gives you, creative options for here's what you can do next and that type of thing. But yeah, what it puts out there, to your point, when someone reads it, they understand it. Like I am an introvert, so that makes sense why I felt pretty uncomfortable in that situation. It clicks in people's eyes, but then it's all positive psychology. So it's built on, okay, so you might be a little introverted. How do you, really work the room anyways? And how do you take advantage of that? Maybe you're a great listener. It puts what it knows about you, and it's not going to try to change you. It's going to leverage what you already have to give you the best possible outcome.
Plays to your strengths. That's great.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. Can we talk about, and we talked a little bit about social worker. Are there other examples that you might have of how organizations are using personas?
Yeah, I mean, it is just primed for leadership. It truly is. It's just a great tool. New leaders, especially. So that also came into mind when we were starting up this company. Is that I got into people leadership at 26 years old. Half my team was twice my age. And you sit there and you're like, you know what? I can do this job in my sleep. I know the operations. I know everything about this company. But it's the people that slow you down. That's what we find when we interview teams. It's not the actual job. It's the how do I lead? How do I act in this meeting? How do I take the stage and earn respect? So it's a lot of that. We see it a ton in leadership, just because that's what the job is. Again, it's the people aspect of it. It's really fun to see that. And then we have like sports teams on there. We have universities on there. It just you can see it as a translational tool of people talk to people, and the AI allows it to take the shape of an Olympic ski team or a corporation. It knows all about the background.
So let's go back to Christian's example in the hockey
Hmm.
team. Every Monday, having these meetings. Um, I'm fascinated by that because initially you're sounding like it sounds like the personas would give you, I'm running into this problem. And it's almost like that initial assessment. It sounds
Hmm.
like once you've got it, boy, you should be good, right? Like, okay, I've got
Right.
it. I know how to deal with this person. Yet Christian and his team did this every week. So this
Yep.
is like a reoccurring thing that you're using. Why do you need to keep going back to the tool, Nick?
That's the beauty of it. And that's actually a really good example because we see the same thing with small companies. Like, we started this company 10 years ago. This person's like my sister. I've known everyone for years and years. I don't need to know how to get them better than anyone. We find that those relationships have bigger blind spots than the big corporations where you're meeting people because you kind of just stop, oh, that's just Mike. Oh, that's just how he is. Let's leave it at that. He might have a secret talent nobody's leveraging because you stop asking those questions. There's a really interesting research piece that Facebook did. They said if you get 75 likes on a post, Facebook knows more about your relationships than you do. So it's uncovering the blind spots, and that's where it becomes a practice. So that's why you do it every Monday. Okay, let's not forget where we came from. Let's not forget our goal, and let's keep trying to change things up. So we're actually building a team instead of just coasting on a team.
Interesting. Okay. So it's helping you, it's reminding you of the report, the initial assessment. Is it also even those weekly meetings? Is it that maybe there's slightly different scenarios which you're
Hmm.
not entirely sure about? So you're probably, I would imagine you're using this and you're probably getting a little bit better every time.
Yep.
But there's probably a little nuance in each situation that makes you want to go back and double check before you make a mistake.
That's exactly it. And what's really the most important part of that whole equation is context. So in Christian's example, it's who are we playing this week? Might be the number one team in the country, might be a community college that just got their team last year. That changes the context, but same with our tool. And that's why we enabled so many different points in the tool where you can add more context about a relationship. Is even if looking at personality psychology, I might be really shy and quiet and introverted at work. I might be crazy in front of my family and my siblings. So it's not, am I an introvert or am I an extrovert? It's am I in this setting and what can I turn that into? So you really got to mix both sides of it to be like, okay, here's what we're doing goal oriented wise. Here's what we're going to take, and here's what we're going to leverage for this one. That's how it becomes a constant practice throughout the year.
Okay. Um, let's I just got to ask you this because you're coming in from a finance background,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we're all pretty accustomed to start talking about AI. It's just kind of like talking about a smartphone. At some point, every now and then, I just like take a step back and I'm like, wait a second. This is something completely miraculous that's taking place here. I mean, I'm sure if we got a computer engineer in, and maybe not even these days with AI, it's like, how does this stuff actually really even work?
Yep.
Um, you mentioned the models, the similarities between the
hmm
LLMs and what Personos is doing. Can you get into the weeds a little bit more about that, or just revisit that a little bit for me to just kind of get my head around this? Like, how is this
Yeah.
even possible?
Yeah, what's amazing about it, so these LLMs, my goodness, they're just a breakthrough in technology like we'll probably never see again. Just unbelievable. ChatGPT, Claude, all of them, and they're fantastic and they're really good personal assistants. So go from writing an email to creating an entire action plan for whatever it may be. Incredible. What they're really good at too is finding the most average and accurate answer. They
Hmm.
don't take into account again who I am, where I'm coming from, who I'm talking about. It doesn't take my entire network and my relationships into account there. So what we do is we build on that engine, we build on the power of it, and then we narrow it in and personalize it as much as possible so that it starts to sound like me and feel like me. And it allows me to take that and bring it to my relationships and my network with people. So when you're able to build on top of these engines, the power is still there. It can still give you a pizza recipe or write you an email if you want it to. But what's really helpful is it creates an experience where you can change things. So we're not hallucinating because we have safeguards put into place. If I type in, I want to blackmail my boss, give me the best 3 steps, it's going to say, sorry, we're not going to answer that one for you. And it can tweak up and down. You can put HR policies in there. You can make sure it's really safe and secure, all because we're built on top of a more narrow use of the AI.
Okay, so we had a guest on who was talking about the difference between autonomous AI and then the learned language models. So it seems to me that this is kind of the autonomous AIs with using those personality tests, the 5 factors, and then building that framework. Like you said, here's some of the rules, here's some of the basics.
hmm
And then, but it also seems like it's applying some of the learned language models where it's those kind of autofill capabilities that you're talking
Yep.
about.
Yeah, it's a nice little blend, and we're able to just plop it right on top of there. And we have different models doing different parts of the tool. So some are better writers, some build those reports that it kicks out, and some is just chat based. Here's what we want. But yeah,
Okay.
the personality psychology is the not so secret recipe of what we do here. And that's what helps guide it. But at the same time, it's like the transmission of the car. If you're driving to work, you're not thinking about your transmission the whole drive.
Yeah.
You just want to
Right.
figure out what you need to get done. So when people
Yeah.
are in the tool, they just have a question they want to get answered. Dig into the psychology when you want to. It always explains why it said that, but just
Interesting.
get these issues off your plate.
Well, tell me something here before we get to one question about, just because you're a finance background. You have
hmm
a finance background. And to me, that's um, kind of a Renaissance quality where you're like, hey, here's the numbers, but you were always fascinated by these personality tests
hmm
and the power of them. What spoke to you about that? I mean, why did the numbers side of this gravitate to the psychology side of this?
What's interesting is, getting to know people was always something I enjoyed. I've always wanted to get into leadership from day one. I want to manage people and help people achieve their goals and that type of thing. And when you're in that position, especially right off the bat, you start to understand what leadership actually looks like. Again, it's not these big speeches that change everybody's perspective on life. It's one-on-ones, there's tears, there's people getting divorced, there's all sorts of crazy things, but you're getting to know people on a very unique basis. So to see that in a room and actually put an explanation behind why everybody's different was really interesting to see. Is total light bulb moment. Just because we were selling, where is the 401k space, and like telling someone who's not assertive to be assertive on a phone call, it's just so disingenuine and it kills the person itself. That's like one of the highest leading factors of burnout is spending so much time not being yourself. It just
Yeah.
crushes your soul.
Okay, let's shift now. I love personas. Nick, you're making all the sense in the world to me. How does a big company onboard this? Because I'm imagining it could be a seismic change, or it might be something pretty simple that you just got to work in your workflow. How does the onboarding work?
It's really simple. So you can sign up right away and just put yourself in there, and you can add people by just first name, last name, email, and then the assessment gets sent to them. And and they join your network, which is really fun and accessible. And there's a demo in there too if you ever just want to play around with it. So it's easy to get in there. But then for a bigger organization, we do like to white glove the onboarding experience, make sure all the teams are built and everything like that. But the really important piece is if, I'm working at a company and we have this really strong mission and value that we all believe in, we want that to be incorporated into the AI. So usually when we're onboarding a bigger corporation, we take what matters to them and upload it into the algorithm and then build that shell of the organization so that everybody's hearing the same consistent message. You can kind of scale that messaging to everyone there. So there's a really easy way to sign up and it works absolutely well, but we do like to kind of get involved with the mission.
Okay, now you kind of got me hooked there where you're talking about culture and values because that's
Hmm.
so important to every organization. How does that expand on that a little bit in terms of how that culture can that filter into part of the management and how applying it, I guess, in very specific ways to specific personalities?
Yeah. So there's a fundamental level of our first two customers, or one was a fire department, one was a church, just completely different types of organizations. So we're like, you know what? This tool needs to know that these people are fighting fires and aren't going to sales meetings, and these people are doing this. We built in just a who are we? What do we do? What's your job? But then we're like, let's start to take what's special about these companies, what's proprietary about them. People have been building these learning and development systems years and years and years. Let's not just abandon them because AI showed up. So you can take what matters to people and matters to these organizations and put it right into the tool. So it almost feels like a white labeled product. And everything that the employees then hear speaks their language. You can even put, top selling products, make sure you mention this. This is how we do things. Customers always right, that type of stuff.
Okay. Wow, fantastic. So um tell me where you see your company going and where do you see this growth? Are you just trying to keep the scope of what this tool does pretty narrow focus, or where do you see personas going in the years to come?
It certainly could get broad, which is, is the challenge of being a startup is, how do you pick your lane and stick in it? But it's a really interesting thing, just kind of long-term, bigger picture is what we're capturing. We're capturing questions and comments and needs that have never been put into a computer before. The stuff that people are asking personas, if you put it into Google 3 years ago, there was not an answer for how do I talk to my mom after her birthday and she cried. There wasn't anything there unless you ended up on Reddit or something.
Right.
So we're capturing really interesting data as to what humans actually need. And that's what's interesting too with the nonprofit space is we're capturing our entire community. So as this AI world gets shaped and the technology keeps going and going, we want to make sure that every voice is heard and is part of that development.
Okay, so the big brother in me is, or fear of big
Hmm.
brothers, immediately thinking, wait a second, how are we going to keep our employees' information safeguarded?
Yep.
How does privacy factor into all this?
Arguably the most important part. So we can't see the chats. No one at your company can see the chats. When you're typing in there, you truly build a confidant. What we do is we have a lot of organizations here locally where we're doing research studies where the users can actually sign off on being part of it. It's a lot of the data and evaluation in the nonprofit space. So we're doing a lot of studies and research about it. But yeah, if, it's just typical corporation signed up today. We could never even take a look at that chat if we wanted to.
Okay. And I suppose you're going to get some research that comes out of it, which
Hmm.
you could publish, just kind of broader strokes, um, in terms of these types of people like to do these kinds of things or react to this. And you're going to have quantitative data.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing. This could mean in a lot of ways, it could revolutionize management, I would assume,
Good.
because you're really getting into the personality type and kind of marrying it with broad stroke management strategies, like from the strategy, the high point, the cultural fit, down to the actual to the person implementation. And maybe that's kind of where you get going with the enhancing
Yeah.
these things that we built.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the findings are going to be fascinating. It's very predictive science as it is. We're about to learn a lot more about people, I hope.
And I think what's really ironic in all this is this tool actually helps humans connect better with other humans, right?
Yeah, that's the wild part. We're on the other end of this whole AI conversation. We're not agents. We're not automating anything. We're not taking anything away from anybody. we're just uplifting what's already going on out there. It's a lot easier way to start having this exposure to AI versus just, okay, let's go automate our payroll and automate our customer service. And you still have your hands involved, and there's still that last step, which is the human's decision to say or not to say, or take the advice, not take the advice. At the forefront.
And then one last thing, Nick, you're the finance guy, I'm the CEO. This sounds great, really wonderful. Are you able to actually establish some ROI measurements that a CEO would react to?
Yes. Yeah, and it comes back down to who's doing what and how frequently. But yeah, when you see that so and so completed 25 actions on their action board this week, that's a big indicator of then what became of that output for that employee. In the team meetings, you can attach the group to what became of the team meeting, because it's all very much who's doing what, who's talking to who, and who did the prep before.
I get that. I get the usage. Can you take me one step further in terms of like how is that influencing the outcome for the organization? Have you been able to tie that in?
Yeah. The key has been get rid of the white noise and the stuff that takes a long time. So like, again, we'll see in the social worker space, this person can now take on 6 more clients because they got
Wow.
this amount of time back, and they're scaling their impact. And that's
Okay.
what's the hard part is there's less resources out there, but if you use one that can give you more time back in your day, you can take on more clients or more outcomes, whatever it may be.
And probably the more with more quality, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Nick, this is fascinating stuff. Can't wait to see where you guys go with this. And I'm definitely going to be sharing this with all our clients, especially a lot in the manufacturing space, as you mentioned,
Hmm.
have a variety of people, types of personality types. Um, and it seems like a great fit. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, learn more about Personos, how do they do this?
You can just shoot me an email actually, or go to sales@personos.ai or info@personos.ai, and that'll get routed on over to me.
Okay. And great website. You guys have a really nice site, personas.ai. And thanks for joining us today, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Greg. It's been fun.
Okay. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on Thought Leaders Live.